are the light of the world. You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hid. All right. Here? You there? All right. A city on a hill cannot be hid. Nobody is meant to hide that light. That light is meant to shine. So do not hide that light, but let it shine before others so other people can see the light and they can see that there is a light inside of them so they can see how God is acting in the world and give glory to God for those things that are happening. You are the light of the world. You and 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 you. You are the light of the world. Have you ever been to a community of faith where you get a different message about who you are? No, you should just no. That's what we want. We want more of that. You bring that. Amen, right? That's truth. That's truth. But you are the light of the world. The first part of this verse is about your nature. If someone tells you that your nature is different than that, they made that up. That's human stuff. That's not in the Bible. Not from Jesus, anyway. Maybe somebody with a different agenda. But Jesus, who is the authority of all things for us in this community of faith, says that you, and when Jesus is talking, that means today, in this day and age, the living Jesus is saying that you, every single one of you in this community of faith is the light of the world, and that is your nature. The second part of the phrase is a challenge. Each and every single one of you is as if you were on a city on a hill, because somebody is looking at you as a person of faith and saying, how do they act? Someone is looking at you as an example and saying, is this a person who shines light, or is this a person who doesn't have light, or is this a person who sucks light in from other people? It is a challenge saying, you can't hide. So what are you going to do with that light? See, light can be used in many different ways. Light can be concentrated and artificially distorted to become a laser. And a laser can be used to kill. A laser can be used to blind. A laser can be used to cut. But light can also be concentrated and shine from us to show a better way, to show a better path for ourselves and for others around us in this world. So many people are using that light, even calling themselves followers of Jesus, using that light as a laser to cut us apart. And the challenge today that we have is Jesus calls on you and says, this is your nature, so what are you going to do with it? Is the challenge. And one of the most important things about a community of faith and what we do is relationships. Now, some of you may be at different stages in your faith journey, and that is totally fine, but I've got to say something here, right now. You may be here for friendship, you may be here for community, but the most important relationship that you have to develop here in this community of faith is your relationship between you and God. You and your relationship between the living Jesus. You and your relationship between the Holy Spirit. And if you're here just for friendship, if you're here just for community, that is okay, but I want to let you know you are leaving the biggest and best part of relationship on the cutting floor. And even as you develop these relationships of your heart with friends or other people, that is ultimately meant to guide you in a direction through that light towards your relationship with God, to help us, to help you be that light. And when people see you as that individual or group sitting on a hill saying, yes, that is a person who is shining their light, and I want to be in that light, and I want to learn how to shine like that. So how are we doing as a community of faith in that? And how are we connecting to the community? And what are we doing in these ways to be that city on a hill? What are we showing to other people out in the world? What's up, Tyson? So we've got a bunch of different groups that I just want to highlight a little bit. It's not everybody, it's not everything that we do, but I would like to highlight some of the things that are going on. In this first three letters, MMT, the Missions Ministry Team. Missions Ministry Team is a group of dedicated people who do wonderful things in this community. They give money to 11 homeless shelters. They run a fund called the Prosser Fund, which gave 28 seniors in Bloomfield the chance for a better life because something meaningfully impacted their lives that was going to put them on a financial down spiral. And they gave them over $30,000 this year cumulatively to help prevent that downward spiral in their lives. Not only that, but they didn't advertise any of this. They didn't go out and say, hey, the money's coming from us. They partnered with social services because they knew that social services was the place where people come on their own to say, I need help. And that those people were in the best place, not us. They were in the best place to assess who really needed that. And the people don't necessarily know where that money's coming from, but it built a relationship with ourselves and social services and the town and help those people. And that's not all they do. You can grab the year in review and see all the details of the different things that these different groups share. But then we have our music team. Anybody feel that effect today? The community that is developed by listening to amazing music, like we heard, the amazing connections when we sing together or when the organ shakes this place under the hands of someone like Eustace. How the vibrations of music connect us whether we want to or not. Just filter right through us. Then we have our backpack program, our parish care team, and our community kitchen. The backpack program for 65 families who have children in the Bloomfield school systems get backpacks or bags of food with about 10 meals that helps those families bridge when they're food insecure from Friday to Monday, when once that happens, the schools can pick back up helping them with food. 65 families, 10 meals in each bag, 48 weeks a year. Now, I don't know anybody other than Scott who does lightning fast math in his head, but just so you know, I didn't do that on my head. I actually used a calculator. But that is 30,000 meals provided. Now, to cook them, right? We didn't cook those meals for them, but gave them the food for 30,000 meals this year alone. And this is, we don't put promotional materials about Bloomfield Congregational Church in there. But there's a relationship with those families because they know that somebody cares, that they're not alone. And we do it in a way that they don't even have to be in a place where other people see, because sometimes there's a stigma or a shame with saying I am food insecure, particularly as you get older in the school system. And so we find ways to make sure it is all done with dignity, but there's a relationship because the people know that somebody cares, and sometimes that's what you need to get through a day. So that somebody I've never met cares about me, which is what our parish care team does within the community of faith. This is a group of people who faithfully go and visit people who are hurting. Make phone calls to hundreds of people, write hundreds of cards, make hundreds of visits to people. It is one of the ways that I am able to say with confidence when I tell you that if you're going through something, if you're part of this community of faith, that you never, ever, ever need to go through it alone. It is because of that team, because of what that team inspires in other people here to help others in our community of faith. So even if you don't have a single friend here yet, you can know if you're hurting and you reach out, we have a team of people who are here to make sure that you're not going through it alone. We can't make sure you're okay, but we can make sure that whatever you go through, that you don't go through it alone. Then our community kitchen every Saturday serves warm meals, family style, in a very dignified way to people every Saturday from 11:30 to 12:45. This program has literally saved lives. One of the biggest problems in the country today is loneliness. It's been declared a health epidemic. So many people are alone. There are people, and it may be hard to understand. For some of you, it might not be hard to understand, and so you could really empathize here. There's some people in this town, nobody knows their name. Think about that. Not just don't have friends. There are people in this town, nobody knows their name. And there are all kinds of reasons why that kind of things happen. But people have come into our community kitchen that nobody knew their name, and then the next week, people did. And the week after that, if the person didn't show up, they'd say, "Where is so-and-so?" And then if they were gone for a little while, if they'd been attending for a little while, when they came in the door, people would yell out their name. And then when they weren't there and they came back, they say, "Did you miss me?" And people would say, "Yes." Then they know they're seen. They know they matter to somebody. That changes somebody's life. That changes the world. Then there are other ways that people are so engaged in this community of faith. We've got our council, which is a group of committed people who take on some of the biggest business issues of the church, and it's also very faith-oriented. It's a very faith-filled group, but it takes on some of the biggest tasks and the biggest decisions when things have to be decided somewhere and they can't be decided at a different level. It all goes up to council, and they take on some really hard things. And this is something that at some point in the future you see yourself saying, "You know, I would really like to be part of that. Let us know." Then there you got something like this, the CT, the counting team. Right? We don't I know it doesn't seem like a ton, but there are people, when you give, and this is a pretty generous congregation, but when you give, someone's got to count it. And there's a group of people who each week just go into a room, skip fellowship time, and just go into a room and it's just like counting. And believe me, I've gone in there when they're just about done. It's like there's one more. They're like, "Oh, there isn't. Not till next week." Like, it's hard. It's not easy. But people do this kind of thing. And whether it's a big thing, like one thing, or a smaller thing, like these things matter. And then we have our board of deacons, the faith leaders who I could not do what I do without this group of people, who we get together every other week and we talk about what are the felt needs of the community, what do we need to tweak, what do we need to grow into, how can we be better, what can we do. This group is important, and same thing if your heart leads you to something like this. And these groups and different people are growing. A long time ago, it was so hard to get anybody to say yes to these things. Now, because people see what's happening, that your voices are heard, and you can make a difference in this community of faith, people are willing, and this is growing. For years, this was only 5 or 6 people. We have 11 deacons that we're going to be nominating at the end of this month. Then here, the first 2 letters, SC, Sacred Conversations. We've been having these sacred conversations towards ending racism for some time now. It's important because while we are named as one of the most diverse congregations in New England, sometimes it feels like parallel play. We've got white people, we've got black people, we've got different kinds of black people, islanders, and black indigenous people of color. We've got people of different backgrounds. We've got people of all kinds of things, not just race, but we're better when we actually work to understand each other and then can say, how do we bring the best of each other's cultures? How can we bring the best of each individual here to be a better church together, and not just a historic white church that happens to welcome people of other backgrounds? That's the ultimate work here, but there's other work. How are we going to challenge and become actively anti-racist in a world, in a town that still actively is? We just had an incident a few days ago where one of the people, not the person doing it was not from our community of faith, but the person who had it happen to them was one of the members of our community of faith. One of the black people in our community of faith heard a word they should never hear. While we were protesting out on Friday, car just drove right by when people were doing their protesting that we do each Friday. And believe me, she's devastated. This work matters. It's not just historic work, it's today's work. And it's work that we need to continue to commit to do. And I know that doesn't sound like a celebration, but the fact that we're willing to do the work and making progress, even if we're not near the end of the journey, not everybody is willing to do that work. Even if we try and fail and try and fail and try and fail, trying and failing and continuing to try to do that matters. And I celebrate you as a congregation for that. On a more joyful note, in the school, some of you are very familiar with this, but we run a school that has between 70 and 100 children in any given week here, and it is not a space that we rent. It is not a profit-making institution. If you ask Scott about this year's financials for the school, he will validate that this was not a profit-making thing for us. This is a ministry. This is a ministry, and we have a commitment. A couple commitments, actually. One, we will never have more than 10% of the population of our school be people who can actually afford to attend it. A minimum of 90% of the people will be our neighbors who otherwise could not afford to go to a place like this. And our vision, and we will be talking with, and you'll be hearing from Stephanie Capel a little while later. But the vision is this: to be the best educational preschool in the region for people who could not otherwise attend a school like that. That is the vision, and it impacts so many people. Think about how many families in town and in this area that impacts if it's 70 to 100 children being cared for and loved. Not being preached at, but being shown what light looks like. That's what we're shooting for. Then we have things like our memorial garden, and then the remarkable landscaping work that between the school and the church, and John De Hoyos did this masterful re-landscaping in the labyrinth out front, and all these wonderful things that get done that beautify the community and create outside classrooms. If you're wondering why a lot of that was done, they're actual classrooms that the children will be able to attend outside. So you'll see that as it gets warmer and warmer, children outside and outdoor classrooms. Then our audiovisual team is fantastic. Now, there is no other team whose mistakes are more visible. And it's not fair because they got so much happening so fast at them all the time. Like, I can make a mistake. I can bury that most of the time. Other teams, like, it might be known by like 5, 6 people. Like this, bam, right there. But they're fantastic. And what they're doing is a ministry. Making sure that the people here and the people online have a wonderful faith experience as we do this together. And we got the male team. We have 200 active people in our community of faith. Not members, like, just because we don't count membership the same way. But it's like 200 active people in our community of faith. And we got to mail something out there. Like, there's a team that works hard to get this stuff done. When you get a year in review or a newsletter or something else that we're putting out there, there's a team that does all that kind of stuff. And then we've got our Loaves and Fishes ministry. 100 meals every month to the homeless in Hartford. Our faith formation team, which nurtures our children. And if you wonder, thank you for giving that celebration for them. Because we should be celebrating that, because I can tell you that 99% of the churches in this area might actually kill to have a children's program like this, are desperate to have children, and don't know why they don't have them. Our faith formation team for our younger children is doing amazing, amazing work. And if you have other ideas for how we can be better, say at our youth programming for our teens, or you have other ways, or you know people who could really benefit from that, let us know, and we will continue to work on that. And then we have our facilities team. One of those teams, it's like, you just appreciate the fact that you walk in the place, well, maybe parts of it are falling down. But we're making sure you're not sitting in those spots. But make sure that not only do you have a beautiful place to come into today, but that is set for 10, 20, 30 years ago. We just are about to complete a generational upgrade in our security systems and a generational upgrade in our fire systems. Now, you're not going to see all that. But you are safer today than you were a week ago. This project's been going on for 6 weeks in terms of the installation of all this kind of stuff. It is a wonderful thing. And then we've got this thing hanging here, mini prayer shawl. There are people who, we have the big prayer shawls that we will give, and so many people have received those over time and cherish those. But these mini prayer shawls, when they were first pitched to me, I'm like, sure, okay, we've got about 200 people here, maybe like 50% of them will take them. We'll do like 100, that'll be really nice, and people will like them. 2,000 mini prayer shawl later, people are taking them a dozen at a time to give to people. So many people in this community and others are like, hey, can I take 50? I know people in the coworkers. I know these people and these people and these people. They are getting to be everywhere in the Bloomfield area. Big things and small things. Building relationships and connecting people to us and to each other. You see, all of you are the light of the world. You are that city on a hill, and you are shining. You are shining. And it's hard to capture all the different things, and you can dig into that year in review and really get to see more of the details if you would like to get into that. And it is all there, and it is beautiful, and I'm grateful to Morgan and all of you who helped do the things that made something like that possible. But I want to give you two statistics that I think capture kind of holistically what you all are doing. I talked about the different food programs that we have. When you take all of that food programming, whether it is the Thanksgiving boxes, the backpack program, or community kitchen, or loaves and fishes, and other things that are kind of like under the radar that we do, when you add all of those meals that we do, this is how many meals we served last year. Del? The town of Bloomfield is 24,000 people. Think about it. It's almost 3 meals for every single person in the town of Bloomfield. For a church of our size, that is staggering. 8 years ago, this church created value into the community of $56,000. That is to be applauded. $56,000. Their budget was $560,000 at that time. Our budget was $560,000 at that time. 10%, that's the target, right? For a church, just like a church, or people might ask you, if you get to the aspirational place of tithing and getting to 10% of your income, which is what is asked in the Bible, and not everybody can get there, but if you're at 2, get to 3. If you're at 3, get to 4, but this is not a financial pitch. I'm just saying this church, if it's going to ask for people to commit financially and invest in your spiritual growth from your abundance and from a place of gratitude and not obligation, then the church needs to do that too. And 8 years ago, it was doing that right at the 10% level. But then more and more and more and more stuff started to happen, and your light began to shine, and you began a different ministry, and someone came, can we start this? Hey, this one's collapsing, can we do this? Hey, this town is closing this program, can we add a program? Can we find ways to help people? We don't pay dollar for everything. We establish relationships with the Connecticut Food Share. We've got people who donate money. We've got the post office helping us. We've got all kinds of different places donating food. But if we pay $2 but can give somebody a $10 meal, that's putting $10 of value into somebody's hands. And when you take all of the things that this community of faith does, cash-based, food-based, and all other things, 8 years ago we were putting $56,000 worth of value into the community. This is the number this year. You are the light of the world. And here are just a few slides to show how we are doing that. We're doing this because we're doing it together with the community, as a community of faith, but also in the community. We're doing it because we are bringing a diverse group of people, and we are teaching our children things that are important. We are doing it in ways that bring people together and have them break bread together and have meals together. We do it by teaching the traditional things within our church and by shining the light outside into the community who will never walk through the doors of the church. We are doing it because we are bringing together groups of people who care about other folks and take care of them. And we are doing it because all of a sudden what happens is a group like Anna Grace Elementary sees what's going on, and a bunch of 3rd and 4th and 5th graders got 2,500 pounds worth of food in a food drive for us. That's as much as the whole town of Bloomfield did in the post office drive. That's how that connects relationships. We've got our audiovisual team that does the streaming and does the work to be able to develop a better and better hybrid service while we are also dreaming and aspirationally developing the virtual reality environment that we will tell you more about in the second half of the year. We're inspiring imagination and creativity in our preschool, and yes, it does actually hold people my size. I've gone through that. So if you want to, don't be afraid to do it. Stephanie's probably shaking her head at me. But we also do it by looking up, right? By inspiring our children because they are looking at us. Because we are the light of the world, and they are the light of the world. But we are looking up at where that relationship with God is, while also showing people how that looks right here in our community of faith on a daily basis. And we do it on this Pride Month. When the first Pride flag raising took place in Bloomfield, the group was scared to get together. And they asked if they could meet here because they said, "We know we will be safe here." There were about 12 people at that first one. The next one will be this coming Friday the 6th at 5:30 out there. I'll be speaking at that. It's be my great joy to be one of the people at that service. This community of faith matters in this area. And we do it while not taking ourselves too seriously. Right? No, we got to do it by not taking ourselves too seriously. Because that keeps us humble and reminds us that it is not just about us, but that there is joy to be had, that religion doesn't have to be mean and judgmental, but that faith and a community of faith can be fun. And that reminds us to keep our relationship with God and humility and with each other from a place of humility as we shine that light. And it's also about this. It's about you getting together, being together, getting to know each other, because those relationships matter. And so thank you. Thank you for being amazing. I am grateful for all of you.